G'day everyone, it's the Swearing Aussie guy here with my very first ever YouTube video on my new channel. So today we're just going to be taking a look at an episode of QandA that aired recently. It's got Pauline Hanson on it, so we're just going to be like exposing what a complete fuckwit she is.
Good evening and welcome to Q&A. I'm Tony Jones, and answering your questions tonight, Labor Senator Sam Dastyari, Senator-elect Pauline Hanson, whose One Nation party will win at least 3 Senate spots and she believes could win 7.
Okay, so that's the first really fucked up thing. Obviously the stupidity of the Australian people is never to be underestimated, but yeah, she's actually won 3 seats in the Senate and she reckons she could win more. Well, we'll see about that, but that's just absolutely fucked. Now, they're there with a few other people, the Green Senator, Nick Xenophon, the Labor guy. Well, let's just fast forward to when Pauline Hanson starts being pretty fucking stupid. Okay.
Quite interesting what you were saying, Larissa, and I'm sure that was, pointed at me about demonising. It is a huge issue in Australia, and we haven't had terrorism on our streets before. It's just in these last decade that we have experienced it. And
Tony Jones actually makes a point later on in the episode about how Croatian bombings in Australia in our history, but violence in Australia and terrorism in Australia is not a new thing. Port Arthur, for example, there are heaps of others. It's just the fuckwittery of Pauline Hanson,
we are experiencing it around the world. You've got to ask yourself then, what's behind it? And why is it happening? I haven't got all the answers.
No, Pauline, you've got exactly 0 answers. So she goes on for a bit and then goes in a roundabout way and blames terrorism on Islam. But terrorism is not an exclusively Islamic thing. You've got the IRA, for instance, you've got all the shootings in America, you've got, dozens of examples of, acts that are quite clearly terrorist that are not done by Islamic people or motivated by Islam. For fuck's sakes, Ned Kelly is posted up as an Australian icon, but at the end of the day, he was a bloke who put a tin bucket on his head and went and shot up a heap of cops. Imagine if someone today put on bulletproof armour, went out there with a pair of pistols and started shooting up police. We'd quite clearly call that terrorism. So it's not a new thing, and it's not an exclusively Islamic thing. But Pauline Hanson, her brand of politics, that's the fear game that they play. It's look at them, look at the minority, look how scary they are. That's what they do. So anyway, Pauline Hanson saw some more vacuous, incorrect shit. So now moving on to the next question, which is from this lady.
Let's go straight to our next question. It's from Cindy Rahal. Go ahead.
Hi, my question is for Pauline. Now, you've called for a royal commission into Islam to determine whether Islam is a political ideology or a religion. Can you please explain what constitutes a religion and what constitutes a political ideology, and why Judaism, Christianity fall under the banner of a religion, even though Islam, Judaism and Christianity all stem from the Abrahamic faith?
Islam does not separate itself from political ideology, and whereas the Christianity under the Westminster system, we separate the rule of law from the state. So they are separate. Islam doesn't.
So this is the type of stupid shit that Pauline Hanson is actually calling for. She wants a royal commission into Islam, as the questioner said. Basically to discover whether it's a political ideology. But, fuck, all religions political ideology. The Jews have their beliefs, Christians have their beliefs, Buddhists have their beliefs, atheists have a lack of belief. And people will vote accordingly to their religious beliefs, it's just a fact of life. You know, she makes a point about the separation of powers under the Westminster system, but may I remind her that, like, we're a part of the Commonwealth and we're a Westminster parliamentary system, but the Queen is the head of the Church of England and she's also the head of the state, so there's not that separation of religion and the state, you know, that the Americans have. So anyway, Pauline goes on to say this.
And a lot of the countries that are ruled under Islam is their ideology, the political ideology. Now, I understand Islam does not believe in democracy, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, or freedom of the press.
I swear Pauline Hanson thinks that, like, Islam is just a hive mind. Like, I mean, come on, like, fuck. Islam does not believe in freedom of speech. I mean, yeah, if you read the Quran and the doctrine, you know, it's got stuff in there about heresy and stoning the apostates, but the same sort of shit's in the Bible, and she doesn't go on about that. You know, she's making these big, wide blanket statements about Islam, like, one, all Muslims are the same, and two, she ignores the fact that you have secular religious people. Like, there are secular Muslims who believe in democracy, you know. She's just referring to, this is what all racists do, they just refer to one group of people like they are a hive mind and they are all the same, you know. There's shitty Muslim people out, but there's, like, fucking shitty white people like Pauline Hanson, you know. So anyway, moving on, she says some more shit, and then we come to this point where Tony Jones interrupts her. Let's just take a look at that.
Pauline, can I just interrupt you there? I mean, can you make such a blanket statement? Islam doesn't believe in democracy when north of Australia is the biggest democracy in our region and it's Islamic.
Exactly. No, look, I don't believe that. I don't believe that because...
I mean, what the fuck don't you believe, Pauline, that Indonesia is not a democracy, or that Indonesia's not majority Muslim? I mean, you know, please explain.
You've got a lot of countries around the world, they have a political ideology that want to control the people. Now, I want to see a separation of the two.
You don't think that's true? You don't think that's true of Indonesia, though, do you?
I think they control the people and their beliefs. I really do. And the people are controlled by it. You know, we are a Christian country, and I don't believe that Islam is compatible with our culture and our way of life.
You know, like, fuck, Australia's a Christian country. You know, just because we have something called freedom of religion. You know, if Australia was truly a Christian country, like, there would be no other religion, there would be no freedom of religion, there'd just be one sect of Christianity. But, you know, there's hundreds of sects of Christianity, we have Judaism in Australia. You know, we have religious freedom, and that's a fucking great thing. Now, the whole concept of a royal commission into, like, one specific religion goes against that core value of religious freedom we have in this country. Because if you don't have freedom, then therefore you have control. And Pauline Hanson's making a point about Islam and, you know, controlling Indonesia, and she believes that it's a controlling ideology. But if you want to try and ban the idea, I don't know what the fuck she plans to do after the Royal Commission. You know, what then? That's a fucking good question for her. What then? What after the Royal Commission? You know, what if she gets away? She gets a Royal Commission and the findings come back that Islam is a political ideology. What then? Like, what's she plan to do with that information? You know, it just seems like a whole waste of... You know, it's just a completely fucking stupid idea from a completely fucking stupid woman. Because she's either going to crack down on religious freedom, or she's going to crack down on political freedom, and I don't, it's just fucked. Anyway, let's move on to what she says next.
We have problems in Australia on the streets, and a lot of people are opposing the mosques that are built here.
Can I just let Cindy Rahal, I think, probably wants to get back in to answer. You've been listening to this. What do you think?
I think that Muslims in Australia have constantly been telling people like you and who support you that that is not what Islam is about, and it's falling on deaf ears. And I think you have very selective hearing, and what you're creating is not one nation, you are creating a divided nation. If you want to have a look at creating one nation, you need to look at ways we can include everybody, all the Muslims and any other religion as well. You have a very one-track mind, and unfortunately, it's very dangerous.
We had terrorism.
Okay, thank you.
We have terrorism on the streets that we've never had before. We've had murders committed under the name of Islam, as we have the Lint Cafe, Curtis Chang, and the 2 police officers in Melbourne. All right, so this has happened. You have
Can I just say,
radicalisation.
Pauline, I'm sure the fact checkers will be onto this, but when you say we've never had terrorism in this country before, that's simply not the case. The 1970s, there were multiple bombings by Croatian Catholic extremists. This has happened in Australia before. It's not the first time. We should at least get that straight.
All right, I accept that.
You know, there's just no forethought to this woman at all. Like, the point there when Tony Jones butts in and cuts her off and corrects her on the fact that we have had terrorism in Australia before, and she's just, alright, I accept that. You know, her reaction and the fact that she's able to get pulled up like that on one of her key points of her whole ideology just goes to show the level of thought that's gone into it, you know. The fact that there's something in, you know, recent history that's not that hard to find out. You know, it's not that hard to find out about those Croatian bombings, like those fact checkers just did it like that. You know, it's the fact that she can be pulled up on something like that just goes to prove that there's no forethought to it. She's just spewing out shit, you know, it's unfucking believable, really. So anyway, there's a bit of back and forward there with the questioner, and then, you know, protesters are mentioned, and Pauline will go on to say this.
So, Pauline, a brief answer, if you wouldn't mind.
With what question about the protesters outside? The protesters were against me because I choose to speak up against this matter. So I have protesters which are trying to shut down freedom of speech.
So she makes a point there about the people who have been protesting her are trying to shut down her freedom of speech and her party's fucking disgusting, damaging rhetoric. But, you know, there's been a push to sort of, by the PC culture of this country, to try and ban, you know, hate speech and people like Pauline Hanson. And I sort of understand where they're coming from, but here's the thing about that. Like, I just test everything Pauline Hanson says, but I would die for her right to say it. Because the great thing about freedom of speech is once you get this sort of bullshit out there, like, it's very easy to see it for what it fucking is, which is just complete fucking shit, you know. She's not intelligent, she's not telling it like it is, she's not supporting the fucking silent majority, you know. She's just a fucking idiot, you know. Now let's see how she, like, refutes herself again in the very next breath.
You know, I want answers to the questions. People in Australia are in fear because they can't walk in the streets. They're fear of terrorism, which is happening around the world. Why? Because of Islam. Because you have the radicalisation. We just all spoke about radicalisation is actually happening in Australia. Who is it under? On what religion? So-called religion. So we actually have to find the right answers to this so we can all live in peace and harmony.
You know, here's some more of this just fucking stupidity of this woman. She's been called out on the show, and by me, that, like, not all terrorism is Islamic. And she just goes on making that point. You know, who's it under? It's under Islam, you know. But, like, fuck, she's been called out. You know, there was Croatian bombings in the 1970s, as Tony Jones said. You know, fucking abroad, there's the IRA, there's, you know, school shooters, there was Port Arthur here. You know, there's terrorism. You know, terrorism's not all Islamic, and she just keeps making that fucking point again and again, and she's just flogging a dead horse, you know, it's just fucking stupid. So anyway, we're approaching the 15-minute mark now, and we're only on about the second or third question. I would like to do some more of this video, so I may upload a part 2, I may not. It's 28th today as I'm making this, of the 7th, and this video came out on the 18th, I think, so it's a little bit dated, but, you know, I will probably make a part 2, I might not. You know, hit like, subscribe if you've enjoyed this video. I won't prattle on too much longer. In the future, like, this is the first video like this I've ever made, so I'm making it with a $1, you know, shitty lapel mic from eBay, so Anyway, I'm going to go on to try and invest in a better quality microphone and get some better, production values going here. So thanks for sticking with me, and if you've enjoyed the video, subscribe please. Thank you.